see that the bed, those beds were introduced in 1980. The 60s and the 70s on the floor with the two mats that you see over here. There were no sheets that time. There were no pillows, with only two blankets.
So you sleep here?
Huh?
You sleep here?
Sorry?
You sleep here?
Yeah, it was somebody else's bed. Yeah. The 60s and the 70s, they were sleeping on the floor with the two mats. Now, Mr. Mandela, he was the first president to be given a bed in this prison. He was sick. He had a touch of tuberculosis, TB, because of the dust in the quarries, hard labor there. The food that time wasn't good in this prison, and bicycle on the floor. This floor is very cold in winter. It rains there during the time. There's a lot of rain. The family then put pressure on the government, on the authorities here, for Mr. Mandela to be treated well. Yes, he was taken out of Roben Island to Grooteskier Hospital, around Cape Town. He was treated much better there. His health did improve very well. He was given a bed in 1976. Other leaders staying with Mandela there, they were also given beds. But the following year, the beds inside, in 1980, to all the other sections around here. Now, here is a die stain that I promised to show you outside there as to how prisoners were given food in the 60s and the early 70s. Right. In the 80s, I was here. No one was given food in this manner. We stayed together in the 80s. We shared everything equally amongst ourselves. The 60s and the early 70s, it will be colors and Indians this side. So it will be colors and Indians this side. This side it will be Bantus. Bantus Africans, male political prisoners. The colors and the Indians, they will be given much better food than the Bantus. Female political prisoners, women, were not here. Women were in Kroonstad in the Free State province. Some were in Pretoria Central Prison. White political prisoners also not here. A lot of white people fought, fighting against the apartheid system. Also there in Pretoria Central Prison. There is a gentleman, he was together with Mandela in the Rivonia trial. He's a white political prisoner. The gentleman was also sentenced for life in prison. Dennis Goldberg. He stays here around Cape Town. He's still strong. Our minister today in tourism, Derek Hanako, 3 years he spent in prison. There's so many of them. The only white prisoner sent to Roben Island, some of you know the gentleman, he worked in the parliament in Cape Town. But we're not sure whether the case was political. It was never reported to the public as to why the gentleman, Mr. Dimitri Tsafendas, stabbed our Prime Minister, Dr. Hendrik Verwoerd, with a knife to death in the parliament in 1966. After being sentenced to life in prison by the courts, he was sent to Roben Island. He didn't stay on here. Just for about 2 months, he was then taken back to Pretoria Central Prison. Now, why Colored and the Indians, why were they given much better food than the Bantus? Why? Yeah. It was a law of the country. This is how apartheid functioned. Apartheid in this country became a law in 1948. Not that it wasn't there all the time, it has been there. Right. So this is just one model of apartheid system. It shows you how we were treated in this country. We were not equal before the law in this country. We were not treated equally. Not only in prison, even outside there. We had white schools, there were Indian schools, colored schools, and African schools. We had white suburbs, Indian areas, colored areas, and African township. You couldn't be a neighbor of one another. No, you stay where you belong. You stay within your group. It It happened in churches also. We started realizing positive changes in this country in 1994. It was the first time we black people went out there and we cast our vote. We never voted before this country. The first time in 1994. The first time we see a black president in this country, Mr. Nelson Mandela, then apartheid was abolished. We are a better country today in South Africa. I can be a neighbor of everybody today. I can even take my children to any school around the country. Enter any restaurant, hotel, and sit next to anybody. We don't have those places written whites only, like before. Whatever we produce in this country, anything, we can take it all over the world and trade with many countries around the world. Much better. It wasn't like that before. South Africa was sanctioned, economic sanctions. We were isolated in this world. It's like sport. We were never allowed in any sporting body around the world. Our guys in cricket and rugby, it was difficult for them to go to England, Australia, New Zealand, many other countries around the world. The anti-apartheid movements, they were all over the world. They made it difficult for them to play in those stadiums. In my country, if you wanted to see the best soccer, the best football, it used to be South African white 11 playing against South African black 11. We played amongst ourselves. We couldn't even play with our neighbors around here. But look today, our children can play sport all over the world. We all play this sports together now. We belong to many sporting bodies. We've been welcomed. We are a winning nation today in South Africa. We're good when it comes to sport, very good. We beat everyone. From which country? From Kenya.
Between rugby as well. 7 aside.
No, come on. You can't. In rugby, we're not Kenya. We're very good. But in cricket, we're very good. Yeah. Our guys are doing well in Australia. Yes. I'm very happy. Yes, I'm very happy. In soccer also, we're very good. Yeah. This past weekend, we beat Senegal. Yes. Yes. We are on top of the group now. We're going to Russia, FIFA World Cup 2018. Yes. Yes. That is sport, ladies and gentlemen. Now here, the colored and the Indians, they will be given branded lunch and supper. The Bantus, Puzamanta instead of bread. Puzamanta is a powder that you mix with water and then you eat it. It's still there in some other prisons around the country. Prisoners are still eating it, that Puzamanta. Even in the mines, some mining compounds, they do have that Puzamanta. It gives you more energy to keep on working and working. They'll be given 6 ounces of meat, Bantus will get 5 ounces. Gems they get, Bantus get nothing, and all the different ounces. The other one here, very quickly.
What kind of
grain is the
Sorry, yeah? What kind?
What kind of grain is the
Puzamanta? No, it's not millimil. I don't know really, but it's a powder. It's a powder, you know. Some other people today, they think it's a morphite. It's just like a morphite. Yeah. But it's different from a morphite. Yeah, you see. Now the morphite has got a lot of flavors, banana flavor, and all that. That one is just original. Yes. Yeah. This one here is your identity card in prison. It's very small. It should always be in your pocket. If they need to see it, you must be able to produce it. Every morning when they open the door here, coming to inspect us inside here, you should be standing next to a bed, holding your small card in front of you. It has all your information, your prison number here on top. You must know your prison number because when they call you, they'll never use your name, but your prison number. He was 69/64, meaning he was number 69 to arrive here in Roben Island in 1964. He was even here before Mr. Mandela, but they came the same year. Mr. Mandela was number 466 to arrive here in Roben Island in 1964. I'm 18 in 83. Billy's crime was sabotage. He was sentenced for 20 years. You have done it all in Roben Island. In my country, if you were a political prisoner at that time, you had to do all your sentence. You had no parole, no remission, nothing. You have done that. His fingerprints, his religion, on top here you can see group. It's one thing that we didn't like in prison, that grouping. It divided us in prison. It caused a lot of confusion amongst us. We didn't want it, it was forced to us. It can't be 50 of us sleeping inside here, but we belong to different groups. There will be A, B, C, and D in a big cell like this one. You start first from being a D. As a D in prison, there's nothing you can buy, nothing at all. D groups are those without discipline, and those who have just arrived, new prisoners. If you behave well, they will promote you to C. The following year you go to B until you become an A group. You are much better as an A in prison. If you are an A group, you could study in prison. You could get a lot of visits per month, buy a newspaper, a packet of cigarettes, tea, coffee, biscuits, and all that. That newspaper that you are buying, they will take it to census office. They will cut what is politics in the newspaper. They take it out. They leave you in the sports section. You can't be an A if you don't behave well. They will demote you back to D. Some of the A groups, they became very, very selfish. When they buy, they just buy for themselves and not share with others. They are the only ones who are allowed to receive money from their families when they're here to visit them. Any amount of money. And that's what caused problems amongst us. In some sections, you hear about the fightings. When you ask why, it was because of this grouping system. So we had to do something about it. We sat down all the parties. The ANC, the PAC, AZAPO, SWAPO from Namibia. We decided to go into hunger strike. We don't eat, all of us. Hunger strike was the only weapon that we could use for the present authority to listen to us. Very strenuous for us working in the kitchen. You must cook, it's a present law. Take food to all the sections around you. No one will touch that food. We'll have to come back, collect those pots, where they are, back to the kitchen.
So when you cook the food, did you taste it for flavor?
You don't taste it. You don't taste it. You just put in the pot and you know.
Because then you can break the strike.
Yeah, you can just take the smell. But you don't taste it. Yeah. Yes. Right. Now you remember we will become weak also because we are working. So we'll take water and put a lot of sugar in that water. You drink it just to regain strength. Prisoners that were allowed to eat are those who were sick, those with diabetes. They could have 1 meal per day. We are going to smuggle the information outside. People out there, they will start supporting us. They will start to picket the whole country. They will demand answers. Why are we not eating in Roben Island? It put pressure on the government, on the authorities here. Some of our demands were met. Around 1988, this grouping system was scrapped. We are all treated equally in this prison. The hunger strike that brought changes in this prison, it lasted 11 days without food in our stomach. Our lawyers had to intervene. We had our lawyers in Cape Town, the Maliniks. They came to Roben Island, they spoke to us, we listened to them, we started eating. We saw